Hi, and welcome to our presentation. My name is Hermans, and I'm a researcher at the Instituto Cultura y Sociedad at the University of Navarra, in collaboration with the Museo Universidad de Navarra, and I'm one of the founding members of the Association for Performative Studies, FARAPT. In our research, we will be presenting how research through practice has an effect on non-performers. In short, it's about how performative means can help non-performers, such as architects, designers, and writers, in order to find and develop new skill sets. I will explain this more in our PowerPoint presentation.
Creative performative processes for non-performers by Dr. Hermans, Dr. Patrick MacDevitt, Dr. Beatriz Pomés Jiménez, and Dr. Igor Saenz Abarzuza. Our study considers the benefits of creative performative processes, specifically through research through practice techniques for students, young professionals, or other creative vocations that do not depend on artistic performance as part of their professional portfolio. These professions include architects, designers, writers, amongst others. There are three closely related terms in this presentation. Unlike performers, such as dancers, actors, and musicians, non-performers are not professionally trained in the act of performing. Usually, they are students, participants, or professionals who pursue other careers and perform outside their vocation. A non-performer refers to expertise. A non-performance refers to function. Most professional performances serve the spectator. Their function is to cultivate a positive, or at the very least, interesting spectator experience. Unlike typical performances, a non-performance emphasizes the performer's own experience and insights gained from these experiences, and is less concerned with that of the spectator. A non-performance can still be performed by a professional. The difference is the focus of function. To be clear, non-performer refers to expertise, non-performance refers to the function of a performance. Tate's Core 2. Tate, which stands for Theater as Architecture and Architecture as Theater, is an example of one such performance. Collectives of organizers and participants work together in a collaborative environment to build a structure from a pre-prepared do-it-yourself box. They choose leaders and delegate tasks. The process is meant to deepen the participants' awareness of the interaction between group and individual. They are given a pre-written script, which encourages the participants to perform more intimate social interactions with near strangers in order to establish insights into our social behaviors. After completing the project, participants reflected on their own habits and biases of social interaction. Quoting one of the participants, "If people are in a group, they never really look at each other, except for 2 or 3 people. And in this project, you become aware of that, and that's a very pleasant sensation." This space too becomes crucial to their experience of interaction, enhanced by the participants' actual building of the structure. Another participant commented, "On the very essential level of how you meet people and how you present yourself to others, as generous or very closed. The play touches these mechanisms and makes you aware of them." Research through practice, an academicized form of non-performer performance, integrates several elements of the university which would be beneficial to less academically oriented non-performer contexts. We feel these habits of research through practice are not merely applicable to projects for postgraduate professionals, but could also be used to develop creative skill sets for undergrads. 4 facets of research through practice are especially relevant to our discussion: reflection, documentation, theoretical framework, and open approach. Reflection. Researchers are expected to evidence their outcomes in a written dissertation. Although the written exegesis appears at the end of the process, the subject undertakes recurring cycles of reflection through the development of a work. This reflection process results in research practice reflexivity. Knowledge or insight developed through reflection will then affect the performer's behavior during their practice, which in turn will affect their research. Documentation is a key facilitator of these cycles of reflection. Subjects are expected to evidence the research inquiry by writing journals and notes, recording sessions via audio or video, or compiling scrapbooks, sketches, photographs, or other documents that represent their process. Theoretical framework. Although participants in research through practice seldomly use the rigorous theoretical framework of traditional disciplines, researchers define terms, survey relevant literature, and establish some limitations and scopes to their methodology. Open approach. Many proponents of research through practice don't begin with an infallible text or concept for their artwork, but an initial idea that can be expanded, changed, or even removed depending on what happens within the creative process. The outcome is not defined by beginning constraints.
Seth Hermans and Juan Luis Roquete applied several techniques from research through practice to an undergraduate course. In September 2020, at the Technical School of Architecture, University of Navarra, they taught the class Scenography, a creative guide to performance and stage design. Hermans and Roquete had fourth-year design students reinvent and update the storylines of famous operas of the 19th and 20th century and create a novel scenography plan for their newly adapted and reinvented production. Their design culminated in the creation of a 3-minute trailer, requiring them to collaborate, direct, write, edit, and perform. The class integrated elements of research through practice, exposing students to relevant literature on reflection and process, encouraging an open creative approach with few beginning constraints, and requiring an end-of-class exegesis, which provided designs, written reflections, documents of process, and a written concept. Several findings from the class can be used in other non-performance endeavors that try to cultivate a deeper understanding of content and cultivate insights into the complexity of the creative process and collaboration. Hermans students describe newfound insights into how creative projects can deepen the understanding of content. This is similar to findings at the Samuel Beckett Laboratory. After a brief rehearsal and performance process, these students found they had a more profound understanding of Beckett's theatrical texts. Hermans students described insights into the complexity of the creative process and the benefits of collaboration. They also discovered new tools to cope with multidisciplinary art projects, such as brainstorming and mind mapping exercises, pointing to the usefulness of such activities within a non-performance environment. Students' findings on the creative process are in line with similar processes described in Hermans' own case study of Silencio, a co-created, multidisciplinary art performance that he developed with composer and researcher Falk Hübner. Hermans found that living, documenting, and reflecting upon his creative process led to deeper discoveries. He noted that key points of the project were especially surprising. After expending a great amount of effort with what seemed like little progress, they changed rehearsal venues, and suddenly what seemed like abstract ideas became full-fledged performative components that then developed into their final production. The class also showed significant benefits to structural design disciplines. Students discovered how space can create an emotion or other messages for an audience. The students explained how their reflections on designs are changed through the act of performance and the practicalities therein, the difference between the idea and its execution. Smaller revelations of this type can be found in the participant testimony from Core 2, which describes spatial parameters as a means of directing interaction. As to be expected, although the class offered obvious benefits to its participants, improvements can be made, and Hermans and Roquette plan to make alterations to the course. These lessons are also applicable to other projects. First, embodied knowledge. Many groups chose to make their trailer through solely digital means. Although it still lent them vital experience in the creative process, they did not get to physically explore the spaces they created, and did not experience any forms of embodied knowledge. Essays written by groups that created physical performances showed a deeper connection with their creative work than those without. Therefore, Hermans believes classes would benefit from the addition of select exercises on performative artistic actions, such as acting, dancing, reciting, and playing with the connection of body and object. Second, recurring reflection. Some students were unable to meet the demands of the required self-reflective portion of their exegesis. It seems they did not have the tools necessary to take an objective, reflective perspective on their own processes and experiences. Hermans believes the students focus too much on the result of the process rather than on the process itself, and hopes to provide more opportunities to refine their own recurring reflective process. Hermans plans to ask students to write brief testimonies after each class or work session describing their experiences and what they learned. Hermans would then take these assignments and offer feedback during the course to better achieve a more objective voice. Another tool that is commonly used to induce a more objective reflection is documentation. Many research through practice scholars use brief journal testimonies and audio and video recordings to document work sessions that they can then use whilst developing their reflections. This too would be useful in undergraduate non-performer experiences. Next year, Hermans students will be asked to write 3 longer self-reflections during the process, using 3 different audio recordings from their work sessions. They will be expected to describe pieces of the recording in detail and apply them to their own reflective observations. These reassessments are crucial to the creation of an effective program, and Hermans and Roquette intend to continue shaping the course based on student outcomes and to share their discoveries.
Summary. While it is impossible to design overarching curriculums for research through practice projects, which, by their very nature, are open singularities that require unique parameters and constraints, the use of these techniques may prove a vital facet of education for undergraduates, specifically in creative fields. In the reflective portion of their exegesis, students reported a deeper engagement with various creative roles and new awarenesses of the phases and possibilities within the creative process. Certainly, these are useful tools to equip students with before they enter a multidisciplinary, ever-changing labor market.
So thank you all for paying your attention. We will be expanding further on some of the key matters in our written dissertation. But for now, I am looking forward to answering your questions and interacting with you. Thank you very much.